Welcome to the Vancouver Special Podcast, our third episode where we talk about real estate in our city and how it connects to our social and interpersonal lives. As I just mentioned, it's our third episode. We thought we'd do something a little bit different this time around and an opportunity to get to know both Michelle and I. Both of us actually celebrated birthdays this month as well.
Woo-hoo.
So we figured it'd be a good opportunity to kind of chat about how we got into real estate, but also our life journey to just get to where we are today and where we're going. So gonna hand it over to Michelle.
Today's episode, we're going to get a little bit more personal. But before we start, I brought a little something for us, Hasan.
Okay.
Got some celebratory bubbles for us since it was our birthdays this week.
Awesome.
So no pressure. I'm popping this on camera live.
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
gonna absolutely 100%. It's like 10:15 in the morning, right? What time is it right now?
It's almost 12. We're good.
It's almost 12.
Fine.
We're good. Yeah, both Tauruses. Yours is on May
16th.
May 16th. Mine's May. Ooh,
And your birthday
fantastic.
is?
May 13th. May 13th. Actually, full family of Tauruses for the most part. My mom's was on May 16th, like yours. My sister's May 12th. Mine's May 13th.
Taurus gang.
So we're celebrating all week.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Oh, that's
Okay.
good. That'll get us going.
That might go straight to my head because I've only had coffee this morning.
Awesome. Maybe we'll start, take us like way back, right? So I don't know if you were born in Canada or how it was,
Yeah.
just tell us your story.
So here's the life story. I was actually born in Los Angeles and moved to the Philippines when I was about 1 year old. So I grew up in the Philippines for a little bit, and then we moved here for the first time. I think I was 7.
Okay.
We were here for a year and a half, and then my dad was like, it's too cold. So we moved back to the Philippines for a little bit and then came back in 5th grade. I was 10, and we've been here ever since. So we did a lot of moving around. I'm an only child.
Yeah.
My dad's been an entrepreneur his whole life. My mom has worked for a bank or like a bank adjacent company my whole life. So growing up, like, at the dinner table, our conversations were like, what's the interest rate? Or like, there's this opportunity, or hey, there's this open house, we want to go see it, that kind of thing. So for me, real estate was always around. And I don't know about you.
Yeah. So for myself, I was born in Victoria. My whole family, though, was born in Kenya, in East Africa. And so ultimately what happened is basically all the brown people got booted out. Right before I was born. So they all came to Canada. I was born in Victoria, and my family came here to get into the hotel business. And so
Hotel business.
yeah,
That's cool.
They came here with his siblings, and they went to Victoria. They were to do this whole hotel thing, and long story short, didn't work out almost immediately. My dad was left with nothing, had to start over.
Oh my goodness.
Moved over to Vancouver. So they were kind of expecting to come here and kind of run and operate these businesses. Instead, they came here and just had to start from scratch, which is, I guess a lot of people did that. And for us, when it came to real estate, my parents did everything they possibly could to buy our first home.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but owning real estate or having a home that you own is just such a big deal, like in our community. And I think in a lot of Asian communities, it's just kind of inherent.
Just really that pride of ownership.
Yeah.
And that was something that my dad taught me too from the get-go. Like, even though you're an entrepreneur, you're making your own money with your own business, you take that money and you invest it in real estate because that's what's going to sustain you through the years. And I mean, I don't know the details of my dad's whole portfolio, but I'm pretty sure he's still, reaping the benefits of a lot of his real estate portfolio and those decisions that he made in his early 20s and 30s with his family. And I remember when we first moved here, and my mom was actually just talking to me about this, it was the downturn of 1999.
Gotcha.
And so the first apartment that they had purchased was actually a foreclosure sale, or the guy was about to lose his shirt.
Oh, gotcha.
And I think they picked up a 2-bedroom plus den condo in Poco for $80,000 or something like that in 1999. And so, my mom was saying it was rough, and there were no jobs. It was really hard living paycheck to paycheck at the time, but it was just one of those things where you move here, you're in a new country, you've committed to that decision.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just no matter what you do, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, 100%. And I know for my parents, like, you know, we rented when we first got here, but like I said, they did everything they could to get a home. And so I remember the first home we got was right on number 1 road in Richmond. And back in the day, if you wanted to be able to afford a detached home, you had to live on a busy street.
Yeah.
Because they would have lower prices. And, you know, if you went a couple streets inwards, those were the houses that had the nice backyards, kids playing in the front. For us, like, you were not playing in the front. You were going to get hit by a car, right? So we move into this home. And so my dad's working 2 jobs. My mom's working as well. And we can't really make things work. Like when we came to Canada, we were kind of like, I would say lower middle class. Like we were always trying to fight to get into that middle class. And so my family was like, oh man, we got to move into, you know, a smaller home. So we moved. And then after that, they're like, we need a suite. So then we moved on to an even busier road, number 2 road, to be able to get a suite. So anyways, long story short, you know, we were a family where we would talk about real estate. We would drive Southwest Marine Drive just as like a family outing to go look at all the mansions there, all the nice homes. And I think that's kind of what we did when we were younger. Like, I mean, back then those homes were probably what, like $3 million? 2.5, 3 million? Like I'm talking 20 years ago.
I would say so. Like
now they're like
already
10.
at the $1 million price point.
Now they're like
for
10.
sure.
So, and then I remember my dad used to have like a floor plan he found in the newspaper on our kitchen fridge. And he's like, that's my dream home. Like one day we're going to construct this home. Didn't happen, but it was a nice goal to have.
Yeah. It's nice to visualize that.
Yeah, big time, right? And it's funny. So one of the homes that we had, I think it was the second home, my parents bought it for like $200,000. It was a detached home. And, you know, just recently it got torn down and sold for like 2.4 million.
Crazy.
Or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So wild world we live in. You mentioned that you spent some time in the Philippines. Do you have memories of the Philippines, or were you kind of?
Yeah, I was old enough to like know what was going on, and like I went to school there, and like very different lifestyle. Like my parents, their home was custom built, that kind of thing. I had like a yard to play in and all that kind of stuff. And then when we moved here, going from like I don't know how many square feet that house was, but it was pretty big for my 6-year-old self. And then moving here to like an apartment, I didn't really know what I didn't have. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Until we got here, but then I realized also all of my other friends were like in the same situation. So I didn't really have that like comparison thing going on.
Right.
But one thing that you mentioned that I want to touch on is like finding that opportunity for like your parents to be like, we want to move up, and so we have to do this. Very similar to like what my dad did. I'm now realizing that all of the homes that we purchased that we lived in, he found them as like foreclosures.
Oh, really?
So I think he would just like comb the MLS like every day, like day in, day out. And all the homes that we purchased were like these really great opportunities.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and he was the number one person to go up to the listing agent and be like, hey, cut me a deal and I'll use you and you can double end this deal and that kind of stuff. So it was just very much a natural thing for my dad. And so I'm very lucky to have experienced that firsthand and learn that from him. A lot of the greater economics of real estate and the market I've learned from my parents, like before I even got my license.
Gotcha. And how long have you been in real estate?
6 years now I've been licensed.
6 years. What is like what was your trajectory just like work wise? Like first of all, did you ever dream to become a real estate ever in your life? And number 2, like what did work look like? What led you to real estate?
Yeah. So like in high school, I was really good at science. And so
real estate,
you know, just like very quintessentially Filipino. I was like, I'm going to work in healthcare. Yeah, that was not for me. I shadowed like a cousin of mine who worked at St. Paul's in the cardiology department. And I was like looking around, and it was like hardly 3 hours that I was there. And I was like, nope, not for me.
Yeah. To me, that's hard labor.
Yeah.
Like doing that type of work.
Well,
that's hard labor.
And I talk about being a people person and like being in front of people, but like I get it. When you're in the hospital, you're stressed out, or like you're dealing with family, and it's like it's a very stressful environment. And so a lot of the healthcare workers get the brunt of that stress projected onto them, and I'm just like, I'm not about that.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was already kind of going to school in that route. So I was like, okay, how do I pivot? And so I ended up taking health information management classes,
Okay.
which was like a mix of health informatics and project management. And I love the project management side of things.
Right. Right.
So I started to explore kind of like business administration, like that kind of stuff. But while I was going to school, my part-time job was I was receptionist at a McDonald Realty
Oh, okay.
for about
Okay.
3 years. And so that was a
Gotcha.
lot of my first-hand back-end experience in
Right.
the real estate industry. I mean, it was a small office. There's like 30 agents. And this was like back in the day when a lot of things were done by hand. And so like I would sit there on Fridays and like put everybody's commission checks like in their envelopes and then into their mailbox.
To the Dropbox.
Yeah. And so that was my big exposure to it.
Gotcha.
And my final push was, my dad was like, I have to move some real estate around. Can you just get your license already and then do it? So then at least my commission's going to you instead of to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I was like, fine. But at that time too, once I graduated from my program, I was working at the Children's Hospital in the cardiology department.
I think I kind of remember this.
Yeah.
This is when I met you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was there for about 5 and a bit years. Love those people to death. They do great work. And I was really lucky because my boss was very supportive of me. When I said, hey, I think I'm going to go into real estate, he was like, I think you'd actually be really good at that. Yeah. And so he supported me straddling both industries for about 2 years when I first got my license.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. When I got into the business too, it was similar thing where I was working multiple kind of roles. So for me, like growing up in high school and stuff like that, I was actually like a pretty smart kid. Like I was in incentive programs and AP classes, all this sort of stuff. And basically what happened for me is like my parents were really, really strict. So they came here, as I mentioned, from Africa, and they came here so that I would have like a better chance in life. So the kids would have a better opportunity. And I don't think they expected that there were going to be all these outside influences in Canada when you're a teenage guy growing up. And so, you know, I wanted to go out and party and I wanted to do all of these things. And it really freaked my mom out. And it got to the point where they put so much pressure on me that in grade 11 and 12, I just rebelled. And the 2 years where you really need to put your head down and get into university, that's when I like, truthfully, like stopped going to class. I just wasn't into it. And so for me, I got into the corporate world, the working world pretty quickly. I went to college for a bit, but I was like, this isn't for me. Worked in telecom in a bunch of management roles, just kind of worked my way up from the stores to like corporate sales, account management, all that sort of stuff. And then, you know, I was working pretty decent gig. And ultimately what happened is when I was 27, 28, my mom passed away. And my dad was on his own. So I wanted to spend more time, obviously, with my dad. Long story short, his dream was always to have restaurants. And so he was applying, I didn't know, but he was applying to franchises to become a franchisee. And one of those franchises was A&W. And so A&W said to him, like, we would take you, but you need some younger blood. Like, we want you to have someone else with you because we want long-term franchisees. So he came to me and he said, hey, would you quit your job to become a franchisee with me at A&W? And so I was like, sure. Like I had a pretty good job. Like it was a 6-figure job. I'm in my 20s. Back then, 6 figures was good.
A lot.
Money.
Yeah.
And so I become an A&W franchisee. I take a 60% pay cut. I have all these like ideas for growth and how I'm going to like build and purchase more stores, etc. And, you know, we realized probably about 5 years in that we weren't able to sustain as we were.
Right.
And so I went back to Bell working corporate sales. And then 5 p.m. in the parking lot, change into my A&W gear, go to North Van, do the dinner rush, and then work there till 9, then back to Richmond. So it got super hectic. And
we're hustling.
Yeah, we're working, right?
Yeah.
And so long story short, where real estate comes in is I took the real estate course when I was 25, but I never took the exam.
Oh.
Yeah, and then at the 10-year mark, randomly we were selling the restaurants.
Yeah.
And UBC has a program where you can challenge and you can basically
just take the exam.
Yeah, within 10 years. And I had like 6 months left. So I was like, now's the time. I had way more fun selling the restaurants than working in them. And that's how kind of real estate.
Did you have a little light bulb moment there?
I had several kind of like as I was going through all the things I was doing. I always wondered, I'm like, what if I had gotten into real estate in 25? Like how would things change?
Yeah.
It could be both positive and negative though. Like maybe I would have got in and not had success and never
Yeah.
gone back.
Yeah. I
So,
think about that too. Like when
right?
I was receptionist, all the seasoned, like top producing agents at my office, they were like, Michelle, you're young. Like, go get your license. You've got the personality for this. And I was like, ooh, like self employed. Like, I don't really know if I can do that. I don't know if I'm built for this. And all of them were like, the one regret I have was I wish I got my license sooner and did this sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of always in the back of my head. And very similar to you, I was kind of dragging my feet when I did the real estate exam because also it was my dad who was pushing me to do it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think
You don't want to listen to there's a certain element of that, right?
And I don't know, they give you like what, 2 years to like take the exam after you sign up or something like that. Like I know some people who are like, I did it in like 6 months and other things. I took all the 2 years. Like I took as much time as I could and then I just did the exam and thank God I passed the first time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that you talked about that resonates a lot with me or is very similar is just that hustle and that work ethic that which my parents instilled in me. Like the second I turned 15, my dad was like, I'm taking you a job fair, you're getting a job. And so like I was always somewhat working.
Yeah.
And so I was taught the value of money and like hard work and saving up and really chasing your goals. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, I really want to buy that outfit at Off the Wall or whatever, right? And save up for it. But it was just one of those things that was taught to me at a very young age that I do think helps in an industry like this where there isn't really that much direction. You can take your real estate business however you want to. And so I think you need to have that drive and that ambition to really bring yourself forward and make yourself successful in this business.
You bring up a good point where it's like when you get into the real estate business, if you don't have a mentor, you're really figuring out things on your own.
It's a lot of starting and stopping.
Yeah, and like trying different things. Like I'm 8 years in now, and only in the last like year and a half, 2 years do I feel like super dialed in. I know what I need to do every day. I know how I need to serve clients. I know what I need to do to get new clients.
Yep.
But it took a lot of like learning, getting into the business. You're a solo agent at first,
I
right?
was solo for the first 2.5 years.
I'm gonna have more of this.
Oh yeah,
delicious.
Go for it. And then I was found. No, and then I was put together with my team, and like the rest is history. But it was one of those things, when you first get your license, you're like, no, I'm going to do this by myself. Like I can do this. You're very motivated, and then very quickly, I feel like that fizzles out because you do find it's a very lonely business,
big time,
when you're doing it on your own, especially if you like don't have a partner or like that kind of support system. Like you're the only one. So you need to make time for all your chores, like your personal life, balance your social life, your work, take care of your clients, do the prospecting, marketing, like everything. Like you wear all the hats. And it's like one of those industries where they're like, there's always something to do. Yeah. And so as an individual, it's hard to juggle that. And so I think learning the industry goes hand in hand with learning about yourself, I feel like, and then how you work optimally, right? Because totally. You're mentioning your kind of daily routine there, like, and how long it took you to establish that. Yeah,
you bring up like a good point because people think being a real estate agent is like this ultimate social career. And like I realize like I spend so much time alone. And, for me, when I talk about like my daily routine, I'm actually introverted. So what I do to kind of get leads or to meet new people is I do a lot on social media. I create videos. And I think if you are someone that leans towards introversion, creating content for me is the best way to meet new people, get clients. Like I'm the type of person where I will not be at a social event 2 nights in a row. It will not happen. Like Friday night, I'll go out on network.
I'm there 2 nights in a row.
I can't do it. Like night number 2, I need to recharge my batteries.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that I tell and say, hey, I'm an introvert, they don't believe it because when I'm in the situation, it's all good. But then, I need to kind of
behind
recharge,
closed doors, you're like, I need to refill the batteries.
Yeah. So like running around as a real estate agent, and again, people thinking it's this big social career, even for myself as an introvert that enjoys my alone time, I still feel like I'm alone a lot.
Yeah.
Like you said, figuring things out. You're doing the admin. You're doing obviously the meetings. You're doing the showings. I'm a solo agent as well. So it's kind of, taking care of all aspects of it.
Yeah.
But definitely not something I would trade. And also when we talk about, wishing that we had got into real estate sooner. Yeah. I'm a big believer in like the timing of our lives. And as stupid as it sounds, I do believe in fate, but I don't believe that you just throw your hands up, do nothing, and the world is going to open up doors for you.
Yeah.
I think you need to move in a direction and keep pushing forward. And then what's meant to happen is going to happen for you.
Exactly.
Kind of my thought.
Yeah. Like one of the sayings that I think about all the time is like, if you're running late, you can pray all you want that you're going to catch the bus. But if you're not running for that bus, you're not going to catch it. So like, you know, you can do all the manifesting, all the planning, all the goal setting. But if you're not, you know, putting in that elbow grease and that hard work, it might not come to fruition. And I totally agree with you. I think back now, like if I were to have gotten my license in my early 20s, would I have the same career that I have now? I mean, don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say, but I did do a lot of like life learning in my early 20s. And I think that's influenced how I'm able to relate to other people and clients, and it's helping my business so much. Now, would I have been able to do that the other way around?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I agree. I do think like the timing was always meant to be per se.
Yeah. For me, I'm like 90% sure I would have messed it up.
Yeah.
Like at 25, you know, I was a 25-year-old male, and obviously as males, we mature a lot slower, right? So I would have got my license. I probably would have half-assed it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, I would have said, this isn't for me, right? And so I'm really thankful, because the truth is when I worked in corporate sales, I hated my life.
Yeah.
Like I hated my work life. They talk about case of the Mondays. I had the worst case. Like every Sunday, I literally would be like, I don't want this day to end.
Mm-hmm.
Because like corporate sales environments, when you work for a big company, it's exactly what you expect it to be. Like we'd have to come in Monday morning and we'd have cold calling sessions. The director's in the room. The regional managers are in the room. We're sitting around a table.
You're doing cold calls live?
Yeah. Yeah. Like they
No
would
pressure.
let us, well, they would let us like go to our little cubicles. Like we used to call our section the dungeon. Okay? Just to give you an idea.
Were you in a basement?
Yeah. Well, no, it was lighted up, but it was just the feeling and the energy. And so we would sit there and we'd do dials, and I hate cold calling.
Yeah.
And so I always would make excuses. So for me, like my excuse was that my name is too confusing. And so I'd call people and I'd say, hey, it's Hasan here calling from such and such company. And they would be like, who? And it threw off my whole script.
Right.
I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
But I realized, like looking back, I was just making all of these excuses for myself because
You didn't like what you were doing.
I didn't like what I was doing, and I didn't believe in it. And I think, tell me if you agree, but with real estate, yes, we're selling houses, but we're selling ourselves.
Yes.
And if you have confidence in yourself and you know you do a great job, it's such an easy and rewarding business because you have so much faith in like what you do, right?
100%. And that comes with the repetition of doing it over and over again. And so like, I guess we can start with your first couple years as a licensee. Like, so for me, I can't remember how old I was at the time, but I spent a lot of time doing pre-sales and visiting pre-sale presentations and like really building my knowledge that way, and then posting it on social media and really making myself a pre-sale expert at that point. And a lot of my business in the beginning were pre-sales.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like, so interesting. When I first got in the business, I was in like a bit of a loose partnership, like nothing official, but I was in a loose partnership. And the agent that I was working with was really heavy into luxury real estate. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a luxury agent too. Yeah. It's a tough market. But then also I was kind of putting myself into a situation and into a mold that just didn't fit who I was.
Yes.
Right. So I would wake up every day and I was putting on a mask a little bit, like not feeling like myself. And just, I did okay, but I didn't feel genuine about what I was doing. And then long story short, that partnership dissolved right around COVID time.
Okay.
And basically when COVID hit, I felt like I was restarting my business because I was starting fresh. I didn't have a lot of leads. I didn't have a lot of people in my funnel. A lot of our existing database was with the other agent. And so I was like, oh my God. And then pandemic, and nobody wants to meet people.
Right.
So I'm like, back against the wall.
How do you put yourself in front of people?
And that's when I bought my first ring light, and that's when I created my YouTube channel.
And the rest is history.
And that's literally what happened. Is I was like, I don't know what else to do. So I would basically like, I remember I was sitting I was in between places. So I was like renting a basement suite for some time. It was so dark. I was like underground. I had this little ring light on my face. Don't go to my YouTube channel because it's still
Scroll
there.
all the way
First
down.
video. I leave it there just because I want to look at where I came from. But yeah, so I would do these videos, and then during the day, I would drive around to new listings, and I would take like new construction vacant listings, and I would take a 3-second video of just the front of each home. So I'd do 3 of them at a time. I'd put it on TikTok. It's like a 10-second video, throw a banging track on it, because you know how I do.
Yes.
And it would get like tens of thousands of views. And then so I realized I'm like, content is the way.
Yeah.
And so that's what I rely on in my business.
And it was one of those things where you realize somebody could be watching this while you're sleeping, and it's working for you while you're sleeping, which is kind of like everybody who's an entrepreneur, that's their goal, right? That your business is working for you while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And social media is definitely one of those things. And like, I've just been lucky enough that I'm very comfortable in front of the camera. And so it's very like natural for me.
Yeah, your videos are good. Like the way you communicate when you're doing like home tours. Yeah, I like them a lot.
I just imagine, like, I look in the camera and pretend that I'm just talking to a friend. And so that's how it comes off, because I think that that's what people like. And then when you ask them for their opinion, everybody's a real estate expert on the internet, right? And so you're just like, how much do you think this home is worth? Or like, how much do you think this sold for? You get all the engagement, and then it just boosts your videos up that much more. But I did heavily rely on social media and just putting myself out there and keeping myself top of mind. Now, of course, like juggling that, I feel like you're really good at it because you have set like filming days every week and posting and stuff like that, where I'm a little bit more sporadic.
It's a little, I still find it challenging though, because it can be hard to stay consistent. What I always tell people is like, we all have like really good days. Like the days where you wake up and you're like, I'm feeling it today.
We're on, baby.
I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. I'm sounding good, all that sort of stuff. And on days like that, I try and record a bunch of drafts. I'm like, all day today, no matter like what I'm doing, the meetings I'm going to, just record a draft, record a draft, because we all have days that suck. We wake up, we're like, I don't want to put my face out there.
Yeah.
And at that point you have a draft to kind of work with. But I've gotten better with having like an actual schedule on the content and stuff like that. But I think ultimately it's just like, I just want to help. I want to like help people. And I realize that through real estate sales, I can't help everyone out there, of course, but maybe I can create a video that helps someone, and maybe they're not even working with me, which sucks, but you know, they learn something and it helps them in their process, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I just could never see myself doing this in a previous career because I just wasn't passionate about, you know, doing that sort of stuff, right?
Like echoing what you said, I did experience that too, where in some of my other jobs, I would wake up and be like, think of, okay, do I call in sick today? And it was just one of those things where you're like, this isn't what it should feel like when you're working and doing something that you love in your career. I was like, is this what these Fortune 500 CEOs feel when they wake up in the morning? I was like, I don't think so. I feel like they must love their jobs to be putting in 90 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I never really believed in that until I got into this industry. And then I was like, wow, I really do love this. And it's very rewarding, and I can be myself. And I help people out, and it's great. So yeah, that was something that I think is very similar experience to you, because I didn't do cold calling, but I did sell TELUS optic fiber internet door to door, like in person, back when I was in college. And that was tough. I was like the only girl. Like we would meet in the office in Burnaby, and then we would pile into a van, and then we would get driven out to whatever neighborhood we were hitting up that day or that week. And it was like all dudes. It was me and this other Russian chick who's like really aggressive. And I'm so not that person, right? And like the number of doors that got slammed into my face. And at the end of the day, you were just like, I don't know these people. They don't know me. I have nothing to lose. So I would like, they're closing the door on me. I'm still like spewing out my spiel.
But you learn a lot. Like all of the stuff that you did beforehand probably, you know, opened up like lessons for you, like moving into real estate. I always say for me, like, again, I went to college for a couple of years. I'm like, this isn't for me. Like my learning experience in life educationally was being an A&W franchisee. Yeah. So like having the 2 stores. And it's funny because when I became a franchisee, I had a big ego because I was kind of like, I'm coming from these corporate, I had a lot of corporate experience. I'm going to these stores and they put you through like an assessment test.
And don't they do like a training? Like, did you have to go to like A&W University?
I had to go for 6 weeks straight, 6 days a week, starting at 5 a.m. I remember I went to the one at Champlain Square, like Kerr and whatever, 57th or whatever. So I'd have to go 6 days a week, make onion rings, like hand make these onion rings. I do not know my way around a kitchen.
So what's the secret to the A&W onion rings?
Honestly, it takes a lot of experience. I was horrible at it. And so I just kind of put my hands up and was like, I don't really want to ruin the rings for people. So just show me. But like they also put you through like assessment tests, like testing.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was going to pass this no problem. And I remember I took the test and they're like, your dad did really well. They're like, you failed the single unit test. Like if you have one store,
right.
But they're like, we put you through the regional manager test. And if you were to have multiple stores, you would do really well.
Oh.
And they're like, we worry about whether you have the patience required to manage people in one store. You have people calling in sick, all this sort of stuff. And I kind of shrugged it off. I was like, no, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And it was absolutely correct.
Oh.
Like we came in, I didn't have the patience. People would quit. I expected a lot of people, and probably too much of the people I had in my stores. So, I learned so much in that experience. I gave a lot of trust into one of my managers. She ended up siphoning thousands of dollars from us.
Why does that always happen?
Right? Like I gave so much trust, hand over the keys, siphons thousands. I got it back.
But still, this is why people have trust issues.
Right?
It always happens. Yeah. You think the best of people and then you're like, okay, here you go. And then they just take it and run.
Yeah. Like it's crazy, right? And you think you're giving them empowerment and opportunity or whatever. But yeah, like that experience, that 7 years for me, that pretty much gave me all of like the career experience. And then also like doing the corporate sales, the job that you hate, but you still do it.
Yeah.
Like that teaches you something too.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate doing this, but I'm finding a way to like hit the target or whatever it might be. How have you found like, okay, so let's go to like personal life a little bit, personal life and career. Has that been a hard juggle? Cause like real estate.
Oh, 100%.
Takes all our time, right?
Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those things where I'm an island. I'm like the only person, right? I mean, I'm an only child also. So as far as like being responsible for my parents now that they're getting a little bit older, like I feel like a lot of that pressure is like on me, and then also taking care of myself. Like who's taking care of me? Like I still have to do like 4 loads of laundry when I get home at night after showings until like 9:30.
Yeah.
Or like, I still have to go to Costco and do the run and like meal prep. Don't even talk to me about meal prep. Yeah. I have the best intentions, but it never happens. And so I always end up just like eating whatever's convenient, or I'm getting good at buying like frozen food now.
Oh, you're
and
doing
just
that, eh?
warming it up. What I was doing before was I was ordering food from Two Guys with Knives and getting it delivered to the office. Yeah. So it forced me to go to the office 4 days a week, and then at least I had like a decent meal there on those 4 days that I was there, and that helped a lot. But it definitely takes a lot of pre-planning, preparation, and just my brain is like always on.
You are so evolved compared to how I live my life. like the second that you said meal prep and all that, I was like, when I tell you that I open my fridge, I have beer.
Okay, wait, it's like I have condiments.
I have condiments. I have beer.
Drinks.
I have vodka. Usually I'll have mandarin oranges or strawberries. And then I have like
You've
butter.
got like the apple rotting in the back of your fridge.
I am Uber Eats like #1 client. #1. Like they should be offering me even
they should be paying you.
They should. Like sometimes twice a day. Like I'm literally ordering every meal from Uber or Skip, or like if I'm not eating out. I know it's bad, but like I try and make healthier choices. But in our world, like I'm not making excuses, by the way. But in our world, we're running around so much.
Convenience is key.
I live like such a 23-year-old. It's pretty sad. I do try and eat healthier, but you put so much energy, so much focus on the business, focus on the clients, and you really love to do it, and you're putting in all the time. I have no time to like, cook for a week. And even if I did, by day 2, I wouldn't want to eat that same food.
Same.
Like, how do you guys do that?
I'm so not a leftover person.
Who does that? People do that.
People do it. They'll eat the same like chicken, broccoli, and rice for 7 days in a row.
What do you do? Do you put a different sauce on it every day? Like,
I don't know, but I could never. Like max leftovers for lunch the next day, and then the next day I have to do something different. I mean, I love to cook. I wish I had more time to cook.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
Yeah. Like I could do it. Like I know I could. I've done it before, but it's the time thing,
It's
right?
a lot. And then when you're done, you're like, oh, this meal is great. And you look in the kitchen, you're like, dang, I got to clean all that up too now.
Right?
Like
Yeah. If you add in actually the time you put into cooking, especially like if you live on your own. So like I live on my own.
it's hard to cook for one person
Hard
because
to
you're
cook.
throwing out a lot of stuff too.
And it costs more.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? To cook. And if it doesn't come out right or doesn't come out well.
Well, and
then you're
honestly,
eating
with
bad
inflation, one trip to the grocery store, like one grocery bag is like $50. And
Yeah.
you're like looking at it and you're like, okay, I'm making a meal and a half out of this. This is how many orders of Uber Eats?
Yeah.
You're like, let me just order food real quick.
Yeah, and like we're turning this into a food. We're such Tauruses, eh?
Yeah.
Like as soon as we start talking about food, but like the sad thing on the Uber Eats side is like because I order from them all the time, I'm sadly seeing all these kind of restaurants like going out of business,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing the process in the sense that okay, they start by raising prices, then they start by
and they'll do the buy one get one.
yeah, or they reduce the amount of food they're giving you at the same time. And I'm so good at like Uber Eats that I'm like, this restaurant's going out of business. And it's going to go out of business in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's happening. And it's so sad that, you know, when we look at like the life, like for example, big organizations are taking over, right?
Yes.
When small business struggles, large enterprise wins.
Yes.
It's happening in the food space too.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we're only going to be able to order food from like 3 places.
There's an opportunity there for you. You like when you see these trends, you should just like reach out to them and be like, hey, listen, like I can consult with you to keep your business afloat.
I don't think they have
Here's
any
my
money
rate.
to pay me. I'm like, do they have
Just
any money?
feed me.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? The amount that I spend on food for a single
Hey.
person, that's actually a pretty good deal. I would say like going back to like the whole like, yeah, personal life or whatever. It's a little tricky because like our work hours are
All over the place.
and also like into the weekends.
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of times like meeting people or whatever it is, like they always want to hang out like Friday nights,
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. And for me, like I'm generally working during those times. I do find a way to make it work, but also like it's so sporadic,
Yeah.
right?
And it's definitely taken some time, but like my friends are pretty dialed in now. Like they'll know that if we have dinner scheduled or something, and then I'll like send in the group chat. I'm like, guys, I'm like in the middle of an offer right now. And they're all like, oh, she's bringing her laptop to dinner. And then we're like sitting in the middle of Cactus Club. And then they're like, the server's about to come take her order. I'm like, sorry, like whip out my laptop. I'm like typing away. And they're like, she's going to have a margarita and an order of truffle fries and blah, 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 blah. And like, they just know and it's fine. But when you're out trying to meet new people or like, I don't know if you're trying to get into a relationship, that's difficult because that beginning stage of getting to know somebody requires so much attention. And like with my friends, I'm like, I'm here. Like, I'll like chime in the conversation and it's fine. Not that I'm saying that's a good practice, but when it's a different environment, different people, it's difficult to be able to build those connections, regardless if it's like a new friendship or something like that.
You're
like,
not supposed to look at your phone.
Yeah, but
you can't sit there at dinner and like pull your phone out. Like, and then that's the other thing also like with the Apple Watch or whatever, right?
That's why I don't have one.
Because it comes across so rude, right?
Yeah.
Like my wrist will like buzz and I'll be with a client or on a date or like whatever it is. And I'm just constantly, actually, you know what? I need to get rid of the Apple Watch. Because I'm not doing it to look at the time. It obviously looks like I'm looking at
your messages.
But I'm just like looking at the messages coming through, right? But
it's like the one Apple product I don't have. Everybody's like, oh, I'm surprised you don't have an Apple Watch. Like, don't you need that for work, whatever? I'm like, no, my goal is to look at my phone less.
It's so helpful though. I think once you have it, I don't know how you can like go back.
I don't even want to know. So
yeah, don't even go there. But like real estate is like the classic career where you bring your laptop everywhere. You go to the beach, you bring in that laptop.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a good thing about our industry, right? Like you can go on vacation, you can be closing deals, sitting by the pool, drinking a pina colada.
So somewhat. I always, because we work with a lot of mortgage brokers, I'm always like, you guys are always complaining about what you do. Like they're always complaining that realtors have it better, et cetera, but they can literally work from a beach.
Right.
They don't have to, like they could be at the beach for like a month.
That's true.
For us, like if you don't have a team.
Yeah. We have to physically show
you gotta
homes.
physically be around. Whereas like the mortgage brokers, they'll complain. Don't come at me, but they'll complain. But then they're sitting on a beach like making their cash or whatever.
They just need high-speed internet connection.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever when you became a real estate agent, was mortgage broker ever a thing that you thought about? Like, should I do this? Should I do that?
No, because my mom was in the mortgage space when she worked for the bank, and I just saw her being stressed all the time with like her sales targets. Obviously, it's different when you work for the bank versus like an independent mortgage broker. But yeah, that was like my exposure to it. So I was like,
yeah. If you didn't go into real estate, what would have been like your dream career? Like at this point, because obviously it changes as we go through the years, right?
I think like when I first got my license, I probably would have transitioned into like a more project management role. I was kind of like an executive assistant / project manager at the Children's Hospital. I wasn't patient facing, which I loved. And like really looking at the back end of things and like how to improve things, like optimizing systems and that kind of stuff. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Like just the problem solving. So that's probably what I would have ended up doing. In the back of my head, I always knew that I never wanted to work for somebody else. Like I always wanted to work for myself.
Yeah.
So I probably would have ended up in like consulting or something like that.
Okay.
Like starting my own consulting business. That is, I think,
still a goal?
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, it could be something that I do on the side now, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think for me, like growing up, I was always all over the map, like what I actually wanted to do. Looking at it today, like if I wasn't in real estate, I would want to be like a sports agent.
Oh,
right. Like with a law background and negotiating deals for athletes. I think, as someone who watches a lot of
scouting
sports,
the new
likes
blood,
the business side of things. Yeah. Like I think I would enjoy something like that. Growing up, I'd always been told that I would make like a pretty good lawyer because I do like
I was told that too all the time. You're like, you love to argue.
We like to argue, respectfully argue.
Yeah.
Like it's fun.
Respectfully
like a good
prove
debate.
that you're wrong.
Do you find that you will often take the opposite position just to get into a little bit of a debate? I do it all the time.
Like devil's advocate? Always.
I'm a jerk. Like honestly, I can be a jerk sometimes where I'm like, but sometimes people like my friends will come to me to play devil's advocate.
Right.
To like show the other side of it. And also like in real estate too. So like, kind of like I have a lot of clients that are like very impulsive. And so they will come to me and they'll say, the reason we work with you is because you are going to poke holes in everything we want to do. It sounds negative, but sometimes people that are like drivers like that just, they act first, think later. They need to work with someone who thinks first,
right,
acts later, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so circling back, like I think something in law, throughout the years, I was always like trying to start businesses. I think it's in my blood to just kind of do that. I started like a copywriting business for a short period of time. I was trying to start like an Airbnb style online business for some time. So I had always kind of done that. And actually when I got into real estate, like I mentioned, I had all these things going on. I had the restaurants, I was still in corporate sales, and I met with one of my mentors in real estate and he said two things. He goes, number one, you need to focus. Follow one course until success. It's like you're all over the map. You're a dabbler. And number two, you need to quit your corporate job.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy. Like, and I know that feeling of having to quit job really excel. And so I was like, I really respect this person. I know he's saying this for my good. So I came home. A month later, I quit. And then that's when the whole real estate thing changed for me. It became a passion and it became my life versus just an opportunity to make side money.
For sure.
Which is what it was to start.
Yeah, same. And it was the same thing. I was also told like, you really need to focus. You need to make this your number one priority. You need to quit your job. And I was like, what? Live off of commission checks,
scary thought.
Unpredictable commission checks. And at the time, like I didn't have too many financial responsibilities yet. Like I wasn't yet paying a mortgage. So I was like, sure, okay. Like they told me, think of a number that you need to hit to see that amount in your bank account before you'll pull the trigger and quit and do this full time. And at the time I was like $60,000, I think is what I wrote down. And and then the second I hit it, and I was like, oh, I have to pull the plug. So and I just did it and just like blindly 2 feet in. And then, it was live, sleep, eat, breathe real estate for the first 2.5 years.
Yeah. I was like, I think like to make it easier to make that jump for maybe newer agents who are watching this, like, you can always go back to the corporate world.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Early.
you learn so many things in this business that I feel
Yeah.
like people are worried about, oh, it doesn't show well on paper. But it's like when you look at the skills that you develop, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketer, you're a salesperson, you can take that back and apply it to so many different things if you decide that it's not for you.
Yeah, I think like if you make it to like, 8 years, 9 years or whatever, because most agents, they, fail or they quit in that first couple of years. If you make it to that point, you're going to make it. Like whether it's in real estate or it's some other type of business, you're just going to do it because you've learned so many skills to transfer. But if you were to like jump in with 2 feet and 6 months later or a year later, you realize it's not for you, many employers will take you back because they'll see someone that took a chance, wanted to invest in themselves. They did what they could. It didn't quite work out. I feel like at this point, I kind of feel like I'm unemployable in some ways. Like I think I would struggle to have like a boss.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that anymore.
Yeah. I agree.
Not that I'm defiant, but like I like to chart my own path.
Yeah.
And that's what real estate teaches you to do is like, chart your own path.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have any advice for anyone that's maybe starting out, not even just like real estate advice, but just like maybe someone who's like watching in their 20s and they're like trying to figure out like what they need to do with their life, what they should do?
I feel like when you're young, regardless of the industry that you're in or the industry that you think you want to be in, try it. Go be an intern, be a volunteer, be an unpaid assistant, get that firsthand experience of like the underbelly of whatever industry you're thinking about. And I think that'll really help shape your decisions. Because I don't know about you, but like when I was going to school, it was a lot of like blind, okay, I'm going to take this program, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to get this job. Yeah. Not having a day of experience in that job. And then like I have peers who like graduated in that industry. They like struggled to find a job in their career path that they liked. And then they had to pivot and like do the whole thing again. So like you can't buy more time, but you can always get more experience for yourself to help with your decision making. So like that's my number one piece of advice. Try different things. Like if you don't know what niche you want to specialize in real estate, shadow somebody who's proficient in pre-sale, shadow somebody in the luxury market, shadow a team, shadow a solo agent, so it's just that's my
I was going to say like that's really good advice. And so for example, like my sister, she got her master's in speech pathology.
Oh, nice.
And well, nice, but then she started working it for a couple of years. She's like, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. And so she completely had to pivot. But the fact that you mentioned like actually try things as you go along, it's so true. We're like, oh, we want to be this. And sometimes in certain communities, like with my family and like Asian communities, they're like, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer.
Yes, those are the only acceptable career paths.
And you're just going to do it, right?
Yes.
And then people end up doing those roles and they end up
and they hate it.
Hating it. And I think like if I were to give a piece of advice just to tie on to that is just take action, like even a small amount of action today. And I say that because in my 20s, I floated around. I had so many ideas and thoughts and things I wanted to do in my head. Don't leave what you want to do in your head. Like every day do something super tiny. Yeah, do something super tiny even to get you closer to where you want to go. Because you're going to end up a dreamer and you probably don't even know that you're, like you said, going to enjoy what you're dreaming about.
Yeah. And you could think that you know what you're doing through theory like all day long, but sometimes you're never really going to know unless you try. Like I'm a very big advocate on learning by doing. Yeah. And so that's kind of my approach for a lot of things. And especially for new agents out there, like just hustle, like call your top 3 top producing agents that you look up to and just be like, hey, do you need help with open houses this weekend? Hey, do you need help showing your clients this week? And I guarantee you they're going to say yes. Yeah. And you can learn from them, look at their business practices and then you can adapt that on your own. And
you can even you can reach out to us.
Yes.
If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below.
Yep.
If you have any questions on anything, any episodes you'd like to see us do in the future.
Any topics you want us to cover. But yeah, I think this was
wrap it
a
up.
great episode. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Hasan and I and our journeys into real estate. Yeah, I had fun doing this one.
Awesome. Me as well. And thanks for watching or listening, whatever platform you're on. How can people find you, Michelle?
On Instagram, @Legaspi_Vancouver. Same handle for TikTok.
Awesome. And I'm at Hasan Juma on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. It's awesome. So thanks for tuning in again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.